It's like a little half moon shape, and it's just like this big. And I sharpened it on both sides, so that way if anybody like tried to fuck with me, I would just fucking push it into them and run away.
Welcome to the From the Other Side live show podcast. The live show will begin in 2 minutes. Grab a snack and a drink and sit down to watch another one of our great live shows. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and share the live show video link. Enjoy the show. The live show will begin in 1 minute. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and share the live show video link. Please like and leave a comment and share this video.
Welcome to live show 110. Open season declared. The U.S. escalates its war on the Mexican drug cartels. And on tonight's show, we explore in a shift in U.S. policy towards Mexican drug cartels. President Donald Trump has signed an executive order officially designating these criminal organizations as foreign terrorist organizations. This move marks a significant escalation in the fight against drug trafficking, human smuggling, and the violence associated with the cartels. We also as we have now for several shows, our regular co-host, Michael. How are you?
It's another beautiful Wing Wednesday, yeah?
Yes, it is. And later on in the show, you have the opportunity to call us by phone. And we have numbers in the US, UK, and Australia. And he would love someone to call this show. We've tried 4 shows now.
Four shows, no calls.
No calls.
We need just one. Just one.
Just one. Also, as the show progresses, please let us know your opinions in the chat on Rumble, and we'll read them out. And before we start, hit that like button, share the video link in your social media. And if you have not yet, please subscribe. Let's get started. Okay. So, as I mentioned in the intro, in a shift in US policy towards the Mexican drug cartels, President Donald Trump has signed an executive order designating these criminal organizations as foreign terrorist organizations. So, on January 21st, 2025, President Trump, fulfilling his campaign promises aimed at combating the drug crisis ravaging the US communities, declared open season on the cartels. This designation means that the Sinaloa cartel, Jalisco New Generation cartel, and others are now targeted with lethal force by the US military resources. The announcement has been met with both applause and concern, signalling a new era of confrontation and the ongoing drug war. And the immediate reaction of those of the declaration has sparked a variety of responses. Some of those are in Mexico. Mexican officials have expressed deep concerns over the implications of such a policy. The president has criticized the move. The president of Mexico has criticized the move as an overreach into Mexican sovereignty, hinting at potential retaliatory actions or diplomatic standoff. There's fear that this could lead to increased violence or direct confrontations between US and Mexican forces or cartels. The US political and public spectrum among US citizens and politicians, reactions are mixed. Supporters of the policy, predominantly the conservative circles, applaud the aggressive stance against what they see as existential threat to American safety and security. Critics, however, warn that of the potential of unintended consequences, including escalated violence at the border, strained U.S. Mexico relations, and the possibility of cartels retaliating within U.S. borders. Global analysts said that security and international relations experts are wary. They predict possible scenarios where this declaration might lead to an arms race amongst the cartels, more sophisticated criminal tactics, or even an uptick in terrorism-like activities as a form of retaliation. And they've already seen drones being used and explosives being dropped on them, and also weapons from Ukraine. So what does this mean for the US? Increased military presence as the US has already deployed 1,500 active duty troops on the southern border, with discussions of potentially employing special operation forces directly in Mexico. This could mean a significant shift from law enforcement-led operations to military engagements. And also, Eric Prince, who used to own Blackwater, has also said that they should sign a law where he can have private military companies do that job as well. Legal implications. The terrorist designation opens up new legal avenues for US law enforcement to prosecute not only cartel members, but also those providing material support, even inadvertently, to these groups. This could include financial institutions, businesses, or individuals. And the economic impact. Businesses both in the US and Mexico might face complications. Compliance becomes harder for companies operating in cartel-influenced areas, with potential disruptions in trade and increased costs during the need for heightened security measures. And what was the cartel's response? Reports from posts like on X suggest the cartels have responded with defiance. There are indications of open season of their own, with cartels reporting giving the green light to engage US federal officers in violent confrontations. This has already led to skirmishes at the border, raising fears of broader conflict. This is a new chapter of US cartel relations is fraught with unknowns. While the intent is to dismantle these organization operations, the execution could lead to a more volatile border situation, diplomatic tensions with Mexico, and potentially the spread of cartel-related violence into US communities. The US government will need to balance aggressive actions with strategic foresight to avoid the very issues that it aims to resolve. The declaration of open season on the cartel is a bold statement of intent from the US. However, whether this will lead to a reduction in drug trafficking and violence or merely shift the battleground remains to be seen. The coming months will be critical in shaping the narrative of this conflict, with eyes firmly fixed on how both sides will navigate this escalated war. So,
Before we start this,
yes,
Steve said that he will be joining us via video call.
Willie, okay.
Yes.
So, I'll ask you this question while you're doing that. I will put you on, and then I'll try and get him on video call. So, you're on by yourself. What do you think of the immediate security risks for US citizens near the border with this new policy in place, do you think?
Well, I mean, you haven't been able to go near the border without getting beheaded for, the last 10, 15 years? So, I don't think there's going to be any security risks for U.S. citizens. I think that this is just going to make it so you can finally go near it again. I don't really see how you could have any negative effect from this at all. Well, now we're ringing Steve.
Yeah, don't worry about the beeping in the background. Hang on. Aha, there's a Steve. Let's see if we can get him on.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, Steve.
Hello. Steve, we can't hear you.
We seem to be having some issues
Technical issues.
with Steve.
We are connected to him. I was calling and talking to someone earlier, so let's see. Can he hear us? Yes. Oh, I think it's your. Yeah, you're breaking up. I think it's your internet connection.
A lot.
Bruh, I don't know what he's saying at all.
No, you're breaking up. You're breaking up.
See, he's not coming through at all.
I'm hearing like poor thing.
Okay. Well, we can't hear you. We're both we were breaking up, unfortunately. So it's both of us over there. Still nothing. Nope, he's gone.
We have lost Steve.
Steve has gone. Maybe he'll come back.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yes.
It's because he did it's Telegram just being Telegram. If you guys call us, it's on Skype. It's fancy.
Breaking up a lot. From outside. Okay. Hang on. Okay, guess what? You've got the floor while I try and get Zoom running.
Well, so this is why I want to get Steve on here so bad. You guys probably know that Fast and Furious was
the gun running thing.
Yes, that was a gun running thing where we were trying to catch all the cartel guys, and that ended up basically we gave them just a fuckload of guns and nobody ever got arrested, right? And when I was in the Army, I remember that there was a bunch of dudes on Fort Hood in Texas, and they all got caught stealing like fucking M16s and M4s and shit from the arms room, and they were selling them to a bunch of cartel guys for money. So I don't know, we armed them, like quite a few of them, and I don't know if those guys actually got caught because they were actually stealing them from the arms room, or you know, the rabbit hole could go pretty fucking deep like it always does. But I mean, the point is a lot of the weapons that they've got, it's from us anyways. And I think the government makes quite a bit of money off of them. So you gotta get your fentanyl into the U.S. somehow.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Okay, we're going to try him again. I will now call him again. This time just a voice.
Oh, it's ringing.
Steve, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, okay, hang on. No, I
now
just
it's
got to
working.
get your little icon on the screen. Give me a second.
All right.
Do, 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 do.
Yeah, now it's clear.
Cool.
No problem.
Yeah. Why haven't you got an icon there? Hang on. Oops.
Probably a lot less bandwidth being used for voice than video. So
Yeah, there you are. Okay. So I just did an intro about the cartels and President, I was going to say Reagan for some reason, President Trump's announcement of calling them terrorist organizations. And the first question to the panel, which was Michael, because no one else is here, but now you are, I asked him, what are the immediate security risks for U.S. citizens near the border with this new policy in place?
Immediate security risks. I wouldn't think it would be much different than they've already had for the past 40 years, which is to say that the border region is pretty much a mess. And you got people on both sides of the border who are on the cartel payroll. So it's really kind of, they're running that area in many respects. And when I say people on both sides of the border, I don't mean like the federal government so much, although there are definitely border patrol and customs people who are on the take with the cartel. It's mostly going to be the local police, the sheriff's deputies and stuff down there, the constables and the local police departments in those cities along the border. As far as the people living down there, it's a lot of ranch land along the border. It's apart from the cities like Laredo and Brownsville, Eagle Pass and stuff that are on the U.S. side of the border, there's just a lot of open space that's all ranch land. And I'm talking about the Texas side, and that's really the only part I'm like deeply familiar with is the Texas area of the border. It goes all the way out to California through New Mexico, Arizona to California. But I would expect a lot of it's going to be pretty much the same. It's going to be a lot of ranches, open, just like semi-arid desert region, especially the farther out west you move past Laredo, it's going to basically be desert. So there's not going to be a lot of people, and you got a lot of wide open space, and pretty much none of it's covered by fence. Now there is some natural geographic boundaries out there that kind of prevent people from just like kind of easily just strolling across. I mean, the fact is that a lot of it is desert, so there isn't a lot of easy ways to get supplies in that area because there's not a lot of roads, so there's that issue. But for the cartels, it's not going to be a problem because they'll just send people out there with, water or whatever, or food, and hike it across the desert for a week if they have to bring the stuff that they need to bring in.
Okay, well, what about given the geographical? What about given the geographical similarities to Afghanistan and Iraq? Further south in Mexico, what would be the unique challenges that Mexico's terrain present for potential U.S. military operations?
Well, it's not going to be as mountainous as Afghanistan. I mean, if you go to Monterey, there are some mountains there, but it isn't like, because Afghanistan is right on the border of the Himalayas. All right, so there's mountains in eastern Afghanistan that are getting into like serious high mountaineering type of mountains when you get into those type of mountains.
Well, you don't really got mountains, but you do got to remember there's a lot of gulches and gullies and
in Mexico, yeah, no, but there are mountains in Mexico. I mean, there are some. I mean,
well, no, I mean on the border area.
No, I'm talking about in the south because if you got to get the cartels, they'll be down that area, won't they? They'll be they'll move down to that. They'll move down to that area. Most of them are operating within like 100 U.S. miles of the border.
Yeah, and I know they have a pretty heavy presence in Baja California too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have a lot of people there. That's going to be the Sinaloa cartel. I don't really know much about, but the area that I've worked in was like the Gulf cartel. When I was down there, and now you're talking about a little over 10 years ago now, was the Gulf cartel was based out of Matamoros, which is literally right on the other side of Brownsville, and Los Zetas, which is like they're the famous one because they fucking excuse my language. Although I don't think it matters on Rumble or anything. They're the ones who are known for being like really brutal. Um, Basically, you know, cutting people's heads off and, hanging people's bodies off of bridges. On the Mexican side, usually they keep a lot of the dirty, dirty stuff off the U.S. side, but we would find bodies floating in the Rio Grande usually like once a week or so. Now, the Rio Grande is the river that splits the two countries. So, like, if there's a body floating down it, whoever sees it first basically is going to, whichever law enforcement agency, and a lot of times it would be us, or, you know, not maybe my agency, but it's Border Patrol or one of the city police departments be fishing a body out of the river at least once a week. And the Los Zetas, they're more a little bit to the west of where the Gulf Cartel was, more towards Laredo, that area, Nuevo Juarez on the west there. Um, but yeah, they were fighting a turf war with the Gulf Cartel for a long time. And that was really like kind of what offset a lot of their violence was maybe the intra cartel violence that was going on between those two cartels, where they didn't really fuck with the U.S. government. I mean, that was the thing that they weren't allowed to do that basically. And even they weren't even bothering the Mexican federales too much because they were too busy killing each other. Now, I guess it's going to change. I mean, Trump declared them a terrorist organization. You can send special ops in there. You can assassinate them. You can drone bomb them just like any other terrorist group in the Middle East, if he wants to. I mean, he gave himself the legal authority to do it under the presidential powers that he has. I don't think it'll affect like the average people so much who aren't like really tied in with the cartels on the border on the U.S. side already. There might be an uptick in violence, but it'll be kind of gradual, I think. It won't be like just, we wake up tomorrow and there's like the equivalent of 9/11 on the Mexican border. I don't think that's going to happen, but it might be some gradual upticks in shootouts and stuff going on down there. But really, when you talk about shootouts going on, we're gonna hear about it in the news now if it happens on the U.S. side. But on the Mexican side, it was going on fucking constantly when I was down there. There was grenades going off in the center of Matamoros like every few months and stuff. The cartels would have shootouts in front of the police stations over there. That was like regular occurrence, and you don't hear about it really at all when you live north of like San Antonio or Houston, but it's common over on the Mexican side. And the Mexican side, when I say the Mexican side, I'm talking like it's like literally like 6 miles from Brownsville. Like I've walked onto the border. There's a bridge that goes over to Mexico. The Rio Grande isn't very wide. You can stand there and you can look into Mexico, and the city of Matamoros is right on the other side. So it's right there, but you just don't hear about it because it became so common the last several decades that they don't give it a lot of attention.
Michael, how does the financial power of Mexican cartels compare to terrorist organizations the U.S. has fought in the past, and what does this mean for military strategy?
See, this is more of Steve's question. The last question I could have answered a lot better. I don't know anything about financial power, but what I can tell you is that given the way that the army operates, I mean,
the cartels have got billions and billions of dollars. They're not like and they've got access to.
Yeah, but they're still driving around in technicals with fucking just bullshit machine guns and stuff on the back of them.
They've started getting Ukrainian weapons like anti-tank weapons and that.
Yeah, sure, but I mean, an anti-tank weapon.
And they started using drones with explosives on them.
But I don't think those are going to fare very well against, everything the army has. So I think what Steve was saying is Trump did give himself complete control by stating them as a terrorist organization. He can attack them, do whatever he wants, as long as Mexico wants to work with us, which I don't know. Why didn't we do this 40 years ago, 50 years ago, whatever? It doesn't really make sense to me. And I think once they start finding out where these guys are, I mean, you can just blow the ever living fuck out of them.
They have started. If you have a look on the screen,
I saw that flight path.
They've started having.
They're scoping them out. Those are reconnaissance airplanes that are flying over Baja California.
Boeing RC-135s.
So once they figure out where they are, I mean, you just blow them the fuck up, and I mean, your problems are done. And like Steve was saying that he thinks the violence is going to go up. I have the opposite opinion. If they actually start getting attacked and the army starts doing something about them, I think that's like the whole Gotham knows that Batman is around, so they're all gonna hide inside for a while.
Won't they stop using electronic stuff so you can't find them?
Well, I mean, they can try and go back to the old-fashioned way, but that's the thing with groups like that operate in. Let's be honest here. Mexico is a third world shithole, and their electronics and stuff aren't going to be very reliable in the first place. So they still know how to do everything the old way. They run through the desert with maps and compasses, and I mean
They'll be using couriers, not.
Yeah, but they buy a lot of their stuff from overseas, though.
that's true. I mean they have a lot more than what you think, but they know how to do everything the old way. I mean, when I was in the Army, like, 10 years ago, people were still having trouble trying to do the land navigation course. When I did it, you have to use a map and a compass, and you have to walk around and find all the points in this giant area of land as a training course, and you have to write down the codes from the posts. When I did it, I was able to just look at, we have to go here, and I could count all my steps, and I could figure out exactly where we were supposed to go without even using the compass. And I tried to teach the people in my squad how to use the compass, but there was 2 or 3, maybe 4 squads that got lost while I was doing the training. People just don't really seem to have any sense of direction anymore, and it definitely carries into the Army too. All of them in our Army, I think, are mostly depending on the electronics and stuff.
Do you think that no sense of direction is due to everybody using GPS devices?
It's the over dependence on devices, yeah. And I think it's because people don't walk anywhere. Like in America, people don't walk. You have to drive everywhere. So, I mean, how else are you supposed to learn how to walk places?
Okay, for both of you, could this military escalation lead to a significant increase in drug prices in the US? And what might be the social consequences of those increased prices?
Well, obviously, if you cut down the supply, things are going to get more expensive. Demand's going to stay the same. We got plenty of shitheads, so they're all gonna want their smack.
And maybe you'll see some increased urban crime because of that.
And by urban crime, we mean what? Southside Chicago, or
More robberies?
I mean,
More smash and grabs?
yeah, smash and grab type of stuff. These like people raiding stores in LA and just grabbing whatever they can. They're gonna hawk it and try to make some money and whatever, or just just muggings out in the streets and stuff.
I think a lot of the people that are doing those smash and grabs in the store and stuff, I don't think a lot of them are on drugs. I think a lot of them are just they're just scamming the store.
I don't think they're on drugs either, necessarily.
Yeah,
but some of them might be, especially the lower level ones, and they might be doing it in an organized way. And the people who are running it say, "We'll give you this much money, you steal this much stuff," and they pay out their money, and those people get the money they need to go and buy the drugs they want. But
I don't think a lot of those people that are doing the smash and grabs on the stores. I think those are just straight up like Shaniquas and Travels and whatnots that are doing that.
Explain to our audience what they are.
Basketball Americans.
Okay.
So I think that's who you have doing that. Yeah. I mean, that's the demographic that's doing it. But I think you're onto something with the muggings and stuff. I think that will definitely go up, and I think like the homeless encampments, like in Los Angeles and stuff, I think they'll start crawling back onto Hollywood Boulevard and begging for more and more money, and you're gonna see. I think the homeless population's gonna get a little rowdy once they don't have their drugs to keep them put to sleep on the sidewalk.
Well, there's another way to deal with that, and I'm sure they will use that method as we've always done in the United States, and just incarcerate the people if it gets bad enough, or if it hurts the wrong people. You know what I mean? Like,
Do you see El Salvador's offered to take your criminals?
Oh yes, yeah, I saw
Israel too.
Yeah.
But
did you see that Trump was talking about Israel sending prisoners to Israel or something?
Yeah. El Salvador said they'll put them in their super prisons for a fee.
I don't know how that would work out.
It's
It might be
actually a really good idea.
constitutional issue.
Why? We already
Wow.
keep people in Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah, but that's not part of America.
Yeah, but those are not U.S. citizens though.
Yeah.
Sure, but if they're federally imprisoned, does it matter? You can just declare that prison that's in El Salvador as being on American soil, and I mean, there's ways to get around shit.
Yeah, you could have a
They would
U.S.
have to
wing.
do that. They would have to legally make it a part of the United States territory or something like that, because
Wouldn't it be like
any decent defense.
Wouldn't it be like an embassy? Because an embassy in different countries is U.S. soil.
Right.
So you could make, say, a whole wing of a prison, U.S. soil, maybe.
I don't know. I'm going to argue on behalf of anybody incarcerated in one of these. I'm going to take their position in this stance and say that I think it would be unconstitutional because the constitutional provisions against cruel and unusual punishment, where they are being held not on the territory of the nation where they committed the crime. So that would be, I think, a defense attorney could appeal that based upon that.
Unless they
precedent.
make the prison U.S. soil.
It's possible, but as far as I know, we have Guam is not a U.S. state. We have the Mariana Islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands. These are not states. I don't know what kind of prisons we have there, and if we bring
You got a federal judge
people
in
from
Guam, because isn't that where?
we do
Yeah,
we do have that's where Assange pled out.
yeah.
But would they be legal? I'm not. This isn't my specialty as far as U.S. prosecutorial matters are concerned. But bringing a U.S. citizen who was charged and convicted of a crime inside the continental U.S. into a U.S. territory to serve their time, I don't know if there's any precedent for that. Usually we build all our prisons in the continental U.S., the large ones anyway, because that's where everybody lives. So we can get guards and staff to run these prisons.
And
we're
families to
living in the
visit
same
them.
area.
And families to visit them.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where you
that's
get your
why
fucking license plates and your furniture made, so that way you can have all that for a huge profit.
Yeah, but how does the
Yeah.
family visit the family member that's in the prison if they're in El Salvador?
I don't know. Maybe don't murder people next time, but I think
Well,
that's
that's what I'm thinking about, is that you're going to have people, like that.
right. Well, I think for El Salvador, I think if you've seen how their prison operates, if you've seen the pictures of it, like they have all the prisoners like come out and line up and get on their knees and put their hands on their heads like while they're naked, and like those guys are completely 24/7, just they're always being watched. So I think if they're gonna start sending people, it's gonna be really dangerous people, and I don't know, like Alcatraz style prisoners, like that's the whole reason that they made that big bullshit island that nobody ever, well, some people escaped. They don't know if anybody actually survived or not. It's not able to be proven.
So how might this policy affect U.S. Mexico diplomatic relations, especially considering the Mexican government's stance on sovereignty?
Well, I think if you can get rid of the cartel and you start sending back all of the people that ran away from Mexico because Mexico's a dangerous, poor shithole, then they can finally start fixing their fucking country, and then they can start building it up. And then, it's a beautiful country. Like, people go there for vacation. They used to go there for vacation all the time. Until it just started to get worse and worse and worse. I think now you can only go to like Cancun, and if you even think about leaving the resort, you should make sure that your head stays attached. So, I think if they make it safe and they return all the people, then they have a good chance to actually build their country up. That's what they need. Why are they all hiding in America? And then that'll, lower our price of groceries and social services and give us more housing available. And there's so many fucking illegal people in America that, I mean, I think I talked about this last time. There's all those videos of the empty Walmarts and like everybody's hiding from ICE and like why? Just go home. Just go work on your own fucking backyard. And you see people having these riots and protests where they're swinging around Mexican flags in the middle of fucking like Northwest America, like Oregon, Seattle, like if you like Mexico so much, then why are you living in the Pacific Northwest? I don't understand. So I think this will fix a lot of stuff.
Steve?
They're not going to send any of the regular illegals back, at least not yet. They aren't even touching them yet. All they're deporting right now. No, I'm going to tell you what they're doing right now. They're making a big show of it. What Trump is doing right now. This is nothing new. They're not doing anything that they weren't already doing. They're just deporting illegal aliens, or excuse me, criminal aliens. They are illegal already, yes, okay, but they're also convicted of either a felony or an aggravated misdemeanor. All these people they're deporting right now, they've known about them for years. We have stacks of A files at every ICE office in the country, and they've got a stack of them in the corner. Probably like, my office had like probably about 200 of these files that you could just go through if you were bored and you didn't have any other casework you were working on. The problem is those guys are not prioritized unless they're cartel related or they've murdered somebody or something like that. If it's just like they beat somebody up, even if it's pretty bad, they're not going to prioritize them. And sometimes these are years old convictions. They're prioritizing internet child pornography, drug trafficking, human trafficking, and
I don't understand what the logic is on prioritizing anything though. Like as soon as you have an illegal come to your police station and you find out that he's not supposed to be here like in America, then why don't you just send him away? It doesn't matter if he shoplifted or if he murdered somebody. Like, either way, why don't you get rid of them?
Because those are the local police departments that are going to deal with those crimes, and they're under just different jurisdictions depending on what state they're in.
Sure, but, I mean, obviously we need some sort of system set up to where... Because it doesn't matter if you're from Mexico or fucking any country. If you get caught living illegally, it doesn't matter. You should get booted out immediately. That's what happens in every other fucking country.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why are we the only country that doesn't actually kick anybody out.
All these other countries have centralized law enforcement, though. The United States doesn't.
Well, I think I've explained this a few times. And let's see if I understand it properly. I don't think I've had this conversation with you yet. From what I understand, state and federal authorities are the only ones that are actually given power by the government. Cities are registered as businesses, and the police forces that are local are hired by the city, which makes them a private entity, correct?
I've never heard of that. Basically, they operate enforcing state level laws on the local level. Most city police officers can make arrests outside their cities, though, and they can extradite to their state if the person is beyond the boundaries of their state. But they can usually arrest anybody inside the state. So in that sense, they kind of operate like state police, but their jurisdiction is usually, like their day-to-day work usually is within the city they operate in.
Right. Well, when they're acting as a city police officer, I think that they're a private force for the city because... Like every city is registered as a business or a corporation or something. It's only supposed to be tax wise, but it's how it functions.
Immigration law is only really enforced by the federal government. The states don't deal with it.
Well, whenever I've heard of prisoner transport or extradition or anything like that. Usually it's done by some form of contractor or by sheriff's departments. It's not done by city police.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, every state can do that stuff all differently. It depends on where you're living. Where are you from again? You were,
Iowa.
What state? Oh, okay. Well, I have no idea about how it works there. But I can just tell you that the way New York State operates within the state itself is quite a bit different than how Texas operates. I mean, in New York State sheriff's departments, we have them, but they're almost doing almost no actual law enforcement outside the jails. They almost exclusively. This isn't always true. Some of them do some road traffic enforcement and stuff, but they mostly are basically working as correction officers. Is the
The
sheriff's
sheriffs are?
departments? Yeah, the sheriffs. And in Texas, it's completely different. Where it's like the sheriff you in Texas, like you have your like city police, you have your county police, your county sheriff, and they are kind of like, and then you have county constables, and they all kind of do the same thing, but their jurisdictions kind of overlap. And then you have the DPS, which is their state police, the Department of Public Services and everything, and the Texas Rangers or whatever are like the FBI of the DPS, basically, they're state troopers, and that's how their structure works. But in New York, it's basically the sheriffs really don't do much, and we don't really have a county. The sheriff would be the county police. We don't have constables at all, really, except for serving legal process. You never really deal with a constable ever in New York State.
Yeah, Iowa doesn't have
Um,
constables either. You have city police are the lowest, and obviously they work within city limits. Then you have county sheriffs, and Iowa's all rural, so for townships and villages that don't have enough people to have even one police officer, the sheriff has to service all of those towns.
okay.
Right.
Well, a lot
So
of times in New York, you're only dealing with either the city police officer or you're dealing with the state trooper because the sheriffs don't deal with actual day-to-day law enforcement too much. So it's
well,
either city cops,
see
town
that
cops,
that
or
gets
state
weird
troopers.
too in Iowa because you have Iowa state troopers which mostly patrol the highways, but then you also have Iowa Highway Patrol.
Yeah.
So, but Iowa Highway Patrol mostly deals with like uh commercial stuff, like trucks.
Hmm. That's what I'm telling you. It's very hard for me to like make a broad statement. I can just say that immigration law is only enforced by the feds. So the states, and every state is a little different. Obviously, they have the sanctuary cities and all that crap over there now. Well, they used to, anyway.
Well,
I
and
think
that
some of that's kind of getting.
the sanctuary city, that's what I was waiting for you to mention because that's exactly why I was talking about the city owning the police officers that work for the business of the city, and the cities like Austin. I mean, it doesn't matter what state you're in. You have to register the city as a business to file taxes for it and all that stuff. That's why every
Yeah.
city has a treasurer and blah blah blah. So they are a
Yeah.
business of some sort. Um,
Yeah. Well,
and-
they're a
and-
municipality.
Right, and they're hiring these police forces, and so they can essentially have them do whatever laws they want them to enforce or not enforce, and then you have the problem like sanctuary cities, and it doesn't matter how much dumb shit you do, they'll just let you hang out. So
Well, the way it always works is like, all right, so you have the federal law, basically, which is actually some of like the kind of loosest law in the country, where that's pretty vague usually and not as specific. I mean, there's no real federal murder charge unless you're crossing state boundaries, and it's not going to be there's no murder charge really. Well, if somebody was murdering people in different states, what would happen is the FBI might get involved, and they might charge them with something like terrorism or something, but they're not going to charge them with murder. That person would be charged with murder separately in whatever states they've killed people, and they
well,
would be tossed in between each state
and
and
I think
charged.
when you talk about that, you also have to go back to like 120 years ago. People don't realize that our laws are still kind of built on the Wild West, and it was you would murder somebody, and then you would move to another state, and then nobody there knew you or what you did or anything, and
Yeah.
before you had the FBI, you had the Pinkertons, and they would chase these people across, and they would constantly run people down from the east all the way to the west, and
Well, we had the U.S. Marshals were the first federal law enforcement agency.
Pinkertons
rub
and
that in
then
our
Marshals and
faces.
then FBI and
Yeah.
yeah, it just all
Yeah, it
evolved
evolved
from
out of that.
yeah. So, but
Oh,
it's
Customs
funny
is
when
one of
you
the
think
oldest
about
too.
it.
Customs, I think it might be older than the Marshals actually.
Everything in America that we have right now, when it comes to laws and how our police work and everything, just think of a fucking Old West setting and then just scale it up from there. It's pretty much what we have.
Back
Well,
to
a
the
lot of that had to be developed out of that because it was kind of like new ground they were breaking when they started moving the population west and everything. Because, I mean, from a lot of America's history up until it broke off from the British Empire, a lot of it was just modeled straight after English common law. So, still is to some extent.
Okay, back to the cartels. What are the implications of foreign powers like Russia or China potentially arming the cartels? How do you think this would alter the conflict's dynamics if it happened?
See, I think that's just a stupid question. Why
Thank
would
you.
why would they need to arm the cartels? We've already been doing that ourselves for God knows how long.
Well, that's true. Okay. Yes. In what ways could the cultural and family ties between the US and Mexico complicate or aid US efforts to combat the cartels?
What do you think, Steve?
Hold on a second. Can you guys take it? I got to deal with something here.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Well, I mean, you already have the problem with now that we're starting this stuff. Like Steve said, they're not doing anything different. They're sending all the criminals back to America like we always do, and they're publicizing it more, and they're trying to crack down on illegal crossings. And now you have all these people having these riots on the Los Angeles highways and in Portland and Seattle and Austin and in Dallas, every big city, and it's strange. It's really strange because I don't know. I knew quite a few Mexicans that came legally.
Ricky?
Ricky did not. Fuck you, Ricky. But but I mean, the people that come legally, especially Mexicans, they already have a tie to that area anyways because you know, maybe their family lived in what used to be Mexico a long time ago, and they're coming back, or even though some of their family lives in Texas, the other portion of their family lives in Mexico, and so you get into these weird things where I don't know. Mexicans are people just like the rest of us, and you have people that are extremely left-leaning, extremely right-leaning. You have people that do stuff the right way, that work hard, and you have other people that are slinging drugs and killing each other and doing dumb shit, and it's just as complicated as dealing with anybody else. I mean,
All right, I'm back now.
you are gonna have to split up families and stuff because you can't go by familial ties, and you can't keep on only being loyal to blood, because at some point you're gonna have to trim those dying branches off of your tree, you know, your family tree. Otherwise it'll make the rest of the tree sick.
So going back to what I was saying before, though, if you let me finish,
Yep.
is that all right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, what they're doing right now is deporting just the criminal aliens, people who've been convicted of the felonies or aggravated misdemeanors. That's kind of like low-hanging fruit, and they could do that the entire 4 years of Trump's presidency, and they're going to only end up deporting about a few hundred, maybe between like 500 a week or something like that, which seems like a lot, but it's nothing because you got about 14 to 20 million illegals in the country.
Before you
Most
go
of them
any
are just
further on that, I read that they've been seriously underestimating that for a really long time, and people think that there's way more illegals than even 20 million. People are saying 50, maybe even 100 million.
Well, there's only 340 million people in the United States. I don't think one out of every three is illegal.
Well, 340 million people that actually answered on the census.
Uh, I mean, it's really difficult to tell. I mean, there's a lot of them there, especially when you go down to the border areas. It feels like almost everybody's illegal, but that's because most of them are going to speak Spanish anyway. So,
Well, I mean, when we were doing the last census, nobody ever knocked on my door.
I
Isn't
don't
everybody's
remember.
door supposed to get knocked on? Isn't that the whole point?
I don't know. I haven't been in the U.S. in 6 years now, so
Well, I mean that's I'm doing the same thing, but well, it's did you see all the videos of the empty Walmarts and stuff? Do you know what I'm talking about?
what do you mean empty Walmarts?
There's a lot of videos going around after people were getting scared of getting deported after all the anti-deportation talk, and then there was the riots, and you had all the people waving the Mexican flags and all that shit, and at the same time there were people at Walmart taking videos, and stores normally that are completely full of people. The shelves were completely stocked. Even some of the workers were missing, and the whole store is just fucking empty. And normally they're packed, crowded.
So you're saying mostly all these people that were shopping at Walmart were illegals?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I know, like down the street from me when I lived near Orlando, when I went to the little, like, you know, like you have like the Walmart Supercenter is the big one. You got a regular Walmart, then you got like that little neighborhood Walmart. It's like a little tiny one. It's like
Yeah, we don't. They got rid of most of those around where I'm from. We had one of them for a while, but they all closed up.
well,
Just
I
the big
would
super centers.
I would go to the little neighborhood Walmart, like the little mini like normal grocery store version. And
Yeah, yeah.
when I went into there, every time I go into there, it's just fucking full of Mexicans and Arabs, and it was like every time I went in there, I was just like, where the fuck am I? It was awful.
Okay, you two, is there a risk that this policy will inadvertently strengthen the cartels by making the drug trade more lucrative due to scarcity? The drugs being scarce.
Ooh.
I think we kind of already touched on that. So yeah, probably it will raise the prices a bit. I don't know about what's going to happen with the drug cartels.
Yeah, but will
They're
you
going to
think
keep
it'll
trying to push the
strengthen them,
drugs through.
making more money?
Well, it's a combination of things. You know, if drugs are cost more, it's because it's harder to get them in, so they're not selling as much in bulk anymore.
That's not always true though. It could be false scarcity. They could use the news and make it seem
just
like
to try to charge people more money, but
yeah. And
the delicate thing, capitalism. You can always, if there's demand there, you can always keep raising your prices, but at some point you're going to hurt your customers too much, and they're going to stop buying from you.
but at the same time, I mean, well, all the WalMarts are empty, and that means there's plenty more TVs to shoplift.
That's true. What lessons from past U.S. interventions abroad should guide current policy against the cartels?
I think this is exactly what I was saying earlier. If you're gonna say that you're doing something, you have to fucking do it. If you're gonna half-ass a war against the cartels, if you don't fucking wipe them out, then it's not gonna change anything, and you're just gonna leave Mexico even more fucked up than before. So if you're gonna start the job, I just think you should finish it.
Steve?
Mexico's got a big problem with corruption. I don't know. They got to sort that out themselves, and I just don't see it from. I don't think that their people really have it in them to kind of root out that corruption that's built into their society. It is a two-tiered society. They don't have a middle class. It's basically you have 90% of the population or more, maybe 95%, who are poor or extremely poor, and then you have a very small. It's a very small, like, oligarchy, sort of. I would maybe even a little bigger than an oligarchy, but they have a relatively small upper class who pretty much own and control the country.
See, it's funny because the only person that I ever knew that actually lived in Mexico was a kid that was he's probably like 5 years younger than me. He's probably like 24, 25, something like that. And he lived outside of, or like on the edge of Mexico City or something. And he would play Xbox with me.
It's Ricky.
No, this is not Ricky. This is Anthony. And yeah, he I mean I would only call him by his screen name. I forget what his real name is, but yeah, he was middle class, because he described his life to me. But I think that's definitely an outlier. And he made his money. He went to college and stuff in Mexico, but then he was doing remote work into America. I forget what his degree was in, but he was doing his work remotely. But I mean, like, he seemed pretty normal. Like, he had some cheap piece of shit car that he had, and it had all the same stuff I did. But even he said, like, even though he's a native Mexican and all this other stuff, like, you got to know who to avoid, and it's really dangerous. And he didn't like living there. He wanted to come to America, and he was trying to put in paperwork, and he would ask me questions about it sometimes. And
So can the U.S. effectively dismantle the cartels without causing a power vacuum that could lead to even more violence or a new dominant group?
I think. What do you think, Steve? You blow them all up, and then 5 years later you got new ones, or?
Well, it's a totally different situation than Iraq and Afghanistan. But the thing is, the America got a drug problem, and I think that as long as there's money to be made selling drugs to them, somebody's going to find a way to do it.
So how do you take away the ability to make money off of that?
Got to stop the demand for it in the United States.
So make everybody's lives better in the US.
You do that by restoring God, family, country.
And the middle
Right?
class, bring that back in like it used to be.
Yeah, I don't know if they're ever going to be able to do that. Not in the same sense that it was before.
Get rid of fucking OnlyFans. Get rid of it.
What are the potential global repercussions if this conflict escalates
Take away women's
beyond?
right to vote.
End women's suffrage. They've suffered enough.
Yeah. What are the potential?
Get them out of the Get them out of the workforce. Take away the right to vote.
Yeah, the
Get rid
wages.
of no-fault divorce.
Wages will go up.
Get rid of no-fault divorce. Yeah.
Okay.
Divide society by the gender roles. Divide society by the gender roles. There you go. There you go.
Okay.
Welcome back to the other side, the extremely conservative radio station.
Yes.
But these are all normal things. And if I had said this, 60 years ago, this wouldn't even be nearly far enough. We should.
Said it 100 years ago, they would think that, well, that's just the way things are.
No, yeah, I need to go much further than that. I need to go back to let me see. When is the last time America was good? Early 1900s, very early 1900s.
I'd say from like 1865 until like 1913 or so, when they did that stuff with the Federal Reserve.
And they started taxing people for the First World War.
Well, we could go back to like 1830. That's when it was like really good.
Well, yeah.
Did they have indoor plumbing then?
Well, it was good for me, not for certain people,
Yeah.
but it was good for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
1830, but with indoor plumbing.
Most of my ancestors weren't there then, so they were
Well,
still over in Europe at that point.
I mean, I'm Irish, so probably it wasn't that great for me.
No,
but,
probably not.
Yeah.
What are the potential?
Yeah.
1830, yeah. What are the potential global repercussions if this conflict escalates beyond the US and Mexico?
Ooh.
I don't think it'll escalate, really. It's going to have a bunch of effects beyond U.S. and Mexico. It'll have effects all across Central and South America because the the Colombian cartels pay the Mexican cartels to bring the coke in for them. So
Don't forget about all the
it,
labs in China that make all the fentanyl.
yeah,
Oh
I
no,
don't
they
know.
just supply the chemicals, precursors, and
Oh
all that.
yeah,
That's all.
Yeah, I don't think
that's
that
it.
it's a huge cash cow for them, as it is much for the cartels who are cutting the fentanyl into the drugs that they're bringing in.
Don't you think they're making the
So I don't
fentanyl in
think that
Mexico?
they might be. Yeah, they could be just making the finished product there and then cutting it into the stuff that they're selling.
I don't
I
even
don't know.
understand what the point is in putting fentanyl into everything that you like. People that are dusting weed with it, and like, aren't you just like accidentally killing your customers half the time?
Yeah, I think that it might be because that they're basically maybe not in the case of weed, but if they're buying hydrocodones that aren't actually hydrocodone, they're actually fentanyl. It's like they might be just making like a sugar pill and putting a tiny bit of fentanyl in there and being like, well, it's gonna get them to the same point, but it's gonna save me a bunch of money and I can just fill the rest of the tablet up with a bunch of baking soda or some
Fillers,
crap.
yeah.
So,
Well, I
Rat
mean,
poison.
I guess for that, that's fine.
crap.
Like that makes sense. I don't know. Here's a big thing is people in America
Problem is
always
so dangerous. You know,
well,
you
people
take
in
just a
America
tiny bit
always
of it
talk
and kill
about
yourself.
like we legalized weed and then the cartel doesn't bring weed anymore, right? It's not worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they bring in some fucking like that brick shit. If you used to ever live in America like 20, 30 years ago, you'll remember that fucking compressed brick stuff. And that was still around when I was in high school. And as soon as they started making weed legal, it just all disappeared.
What would the effect be if, like, the U.S. government, instead of spending on the military, just bought the drugs direct off the cartels and the Colombians and then just destroyed it? It'd probably be cheaper than fighting it.
Well, I mean, you could just like pretend you're gonna buy it, and then you could shoot them in the face, so you don't have to spend our fucking money on it.
Yeah, but you're already spending money against it, so you could.
But
Yeah.
I still think you.
I don't know.
Well, it's for the longest time.
Colombia is also looking at making cocaine legal.
Opium used to be legal in
Yeah,
America.
yeah.
I mean, like past presidents used to smoke opium,
So cocaine.
and so
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna get onto with the brickweed situation. Well, if you made it legal to grow poppies in
Just
America, and
prescribe it.
people could scrape their own flowers for opium and smoke opium just like people have for a really long time. It's hard to overdose when you smoke opium, based on what I've read, because they used to have these opium dens where people would sit there and smoke it, and then they would pass out, and then when they wake up, they'd smoke it and pass out, and so
China had a huge problem with it. China, remember the opium wars?
Oh yeah.
With the UK?
But
They had a huge problem with it, and they got over it. And part of the thing is they went heavy-handed with the criminalization of all that stuff. But you got to give some people something else besides, like we were talking about before, which you don't need to go back into. But you got to restore the hope of your people to have something else, meaning in their life besides drowning their agony in drugs.
but they have a huge advantage that we don't, and that they're a completely homogenous society. They're all one people. They haven't had all of this crazy shit, all these influx of random fucking people bringing in different ideas, and they all they all agree with each other.
Where?
That's
In China.
self-inflicted wound.
It's like
Here.
I think of like when you even when I was in Korea, Asian people, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean people, it's like their society is like they're like ants, like they've got a lot of bodies, but it's one shared mind. Like
Like a hive.
yeah, exactly. They're like bees
they're
or
very
ants.
collectivist.
Yeah,
Collectivist society.
I mean, as Europeans and Westerners, we're all individuals, and I should be allowed to do whatever I want as long as it's not hurting the person next to me. And when you start to dive into that, I mean, well, I mean, I would
You
love
hurt them
to
indirectly. You hurt people indirectly, Yeah.
yeah,
Even
because
if
I
you're
mean,
not
like if I
breaking
want
the
to
law.
hang out on my back porch and smoke meth and shoot my guns into the air at 3 o'clock in the morning, I mean, I'm not hurting anybody, but I kind of am. It's,
You could.
I could, yeah. But then you run into the whole argument of drunk driving.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the whole entire point in getting arrested for drunk driving is you could have hurt somebody, but
Yeah.
I didn't. So
Yeah.
why
That's
am I
why they
being
don't tell you-
arrested for drunk driving on the chance that I could hurt somebody? I could hurt somebody just by driving a car. I could hurt somebody just by trying to cut down a tree with a chainsaw in my backyard. Somebody could walk under it. Are you going to arrest me for that?
You could argue that a lot of things, though. I mean, everything affects everything else in this world. So when people lose their jobs, because we have a very capitalist system, right, in America, or sort of for certain people anyway, then, when you get your job ruined and the person's family gets destroyed and, father goes crazy and kills his whole family and then kills himself, which happens all the time over there. Well, not all the time, but it happens. Is that company or is that government or whoever he worked for responsible for firing that person? No, I mean, they're not going to hold them responsible. Of course not. They just then the blame is all on the individual, So
Well, I think the
And,
biggest issue with today's society, just in general, is I mean, you got too many fucking people living way too close to each other. I mean, we're supposed to be, villagers. Like that's how we all operate on a day-to-day basis. If you think about your neighborhood, because there's no way that you can
15-minute cities.
it's I don't know. I think even if you think about before, a long time ago, probably having a village of 1,000 people, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like in my town in Iowa that I lived in, it had 350 people. You think I know everybody? No. Like, you're not supposed to be around that many people. It doesn't make sense. And you're all supposed to be policing each other, and you have to have all these stupid fucking laws written down, because now you've got, how many fucking people are in New York? Like 10 million, 20 million? I don't fucking know.
Depends on if you're talking about the city itself or the area surrounding it too.
Just
But
the
anyway,
annoying fucking city that everybody hates.
It's like in the 5 boroughs, it's going to be around 8 to 9 million, I think, right now.
Yeah, dude, that's fucking crazy. And that's only counting the people that are actually counted. Imagine how many
Not the
people are
ones that-
there that you don't even know.
Well, you're not counting all the people who show up on Monday through Friday because they're commuting in from Long Island and New Jersey.
Well, I'm
to
thinking
work,
more about
which
the
is-
30 Chinese people in one apartment,
Yeah.
Because they used to do that in San Francisco.
Well, they did that with the Indians. Do that too. I know not even the part of New York I'm from, but we're upstate. Where you're talking Albany, the capital, where you have a bunch of IT people coming in from India working on contracts, and they'll pack them all into a house, and they just stay there, and they live as cheaply as possible while they're in America, and they just pool their money to live in a big place, but there's like a ton of them living there, and they send like half their paycheck back to India every week or every 2 weeks whenever they get paid.
Yeah, well, I think a big problem is I don't know. People are supposed to police each other on a small scale. You're supposed to live on a small scale, and they're trying to come up with new solutions like like the AI face recognition and they've got 4 billion fucking laws about everything that are written. You probably break the law if you're in America or another similar Western country like that. You probably unknowingly break the law multiple times per day. Like, there's a law for fucking everything.
Yeah, there is.
That's intentional.
Yeah, it is intentional. And there's so many fucking people that I think once they do get a hold of all this AI facial recognition and they're going to be able to track you everywhere, and I mean they'll just show up at your house. There's not going to be any community policing at all. Like you're just going to get picked up.
There'll be
Let me tell you
pre-crime.
something about I'll tell you something about police investigations that you don't really hear talked about. I never heard it talked about at all by any other cop, even when they're retired. You would think they would just spill the beans on this whole thing, maybe because they don't want to get in trouble. I don't think I'm going to get in trouble for this, but if we're doing an investigation on somebody, we're doing surveillance on them. Say we're following them, all right? And we usually use the local police to do this when it happens, but we've been following them around in unmarked vehicles or whatever. We want to get the guy pulled over just to check his ID or whatever, just to see if he's got anything in the car that we can hook him up on. Give him, see if we can, And then when I say hook him up, I mean arrest him and then try to push him to flip him for more information or something. We have the local police pull them over, and you say, well, how do you just do that? Don't they have to do something wrong? Speed or run a red light or something? No, we just have a local cop go and follow them, and you say, okay, just make up some reason to pull them over.
Yeah, well, I mean, they can do that.
It is a constitutional violation. Yeah, it is.
They do that all the time. That's why you see, if you scroll through Instagram for long enough and you see those, like cop interaction videos that are being rated by like those YouTube lawyers and stuff. Not the fake YouTube lawyers. I mean the ones that actually like give you the codes and they give you the ratings and stuff. Because sometimes those guys, they'll show you the interactions where, sometimes the person was wrong, sometimes the cop was wrong, and blah blah blah. But you'll see on there's a lot of sketchy stuff where, do you know what I'm talking about when I mentioned the cop that was towing the boat in a civilian truck across a bridge, and what was it? He popped his tire or something, and then was like weaving in front of this guy that was trying to like pass him, and they pulled the guy over and tried to with an actual police vehicle, and then tried to say he did a bunch of stuff that he didn't do. He had it all on dash cam, and he brought it to court. And, it was not good.
Yeah.
That one was really famous.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Good idea to have a dash cam if you are driving anywhere. The Russians have been doing it for decades. And that has to do with their insurance laws and stuff, most so.
Well,
in the U.S., it's good to have a dash cam just to protect yourself from the police over there.
You do have to be careful with that, though, because when I was in Korea, they've also been doing the dash cams for... I was there in 2015, and everybody and their mom had one. You have to have a car there. But the issue with that is the way Korean prosecutors work is like they have to know Taekwondo. They have to be like a lawyer and a cop at the same time. Like they're like all three wrapped into one. It's like if Jackie Chan was your lawyer. Mm-hmm. And they can literally just come up to you. They don't need a warrant or anything, and say, "Is that your car? I need the memory stick from your dash cam," or they'll confiscate your phone, or they'll force you to send them the videos or whatever you got. Like they don't need anything. So surveillance is good to a certain extent, but then once you get to the point, I was
talking about in America though, to have a dash cam, not over in these countries.
Well, yeah, but the problem is that America is already kind of like that, and a lot of these companies that are selling dash cams that automatically upload, or the company that stores the stuff for them, they're already selling your shit.
Yeah, like that Ring
driving
doorbell.
that or whatever.
Yeah, Ring selling all your recordings and stuff, and
Yeah, exactly. So the policy with Mexico and the cartels, would this lead to unintended consequences like increased cartel activity within the U.S. as a form of retaliation?
I think they'll definitely try it when they get angry, but I don't think that would be a very good move for them. I mean, what do you think if they tried to bump stuff up? I don't
When we
know.
were talking about this, and you were thinking that they were gonna quiet down, and the more I think about it, maybe they will. It depends on how hard Trump comes at them. I think if they use the soft hand like they've been using for the past 50 years, then they might just slowly escalate against U.S. law enforcement a little bit in the area. But if he kind of starts coming down hard, like really treating them like a foreign terrorist entity, and like gives them the whole, like Al Qaeda treatment,
Droning.
then they might
Yeah.
they might back down. They might back down because there's no way they could really go to toe with the U.S. government. And if the CIA and the intelligence assets get involved even more, and they already are to some extent because the NSA was visiting us every so often down there, they are monitoring the cartels' phone calls and stuff like that. I mean, they really could shut it down hard if they wanted to. That's the thing. But I think, to be quite honest, it's kind of a wink and nod that they're letting a certain amount of drugs come into the U.S. as long as it's sort of like not totally out of control. But if they really want to shut it down, I think they can.
I think, like he just said, they've been watching them for a really long time. You saw that screenshot of that flight path that you brought up. I think that they already know where almost all of them are, and if they wanted to overnight just fucking strike every single spot at the same time, they could probably do it, and then you just wouldn't see them for a while. But like Steve said, I mean, we've been giving them weapons. We let them almost do whatever they want to a certain extent for how long now? If you're too light about it, then yeah, they're gonna keep on doing whatever they want. But I think if you really scare the shit out of them and you kill a fuckload of them to start with, I don't think you're gonna have any problems. They're gonna stop for a while.
Would there be any alternative strategies that the US could use to explore to combat drug trafficking without escalating to military intervention into Mexico?
Like Steve said, make it so America doesn't fucking suck. So that way I don't need to snort a bunch of fake oxycodone to make it through my day.
Yeah, make sure everybody's got a job.
Stop the demand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. How do you see this playing out in terms of public opinion in the US, especially considering the political divide on this issue?
Well, I mean, you already see, like I keep on saying, all the Mexicans are hiding, or they're on the streets protesting and waving their flags, and I don't know. I think a lot of stuff in America is fueled by left-wing liberals that, like I said the last time we were on the show, have this misplaced like maternal instinct for these poor people that they don't have kids, they don't want family. They would rather think about, oh, that poor illegal Mexican or that poor African that attacked everybody with a machete. I wish I could just keep him in my house and take care of him and stroke his nappy hair or whatever the fuck they think about. And it doesn't make sense, you know? Like you're supposed to be doing your duties, and as a man you should be, find a job, take care of your wife and your kids, and your wife should be taking care of her man and taking care of her kids. And no, you're just letting yourself get placed out of your own country. You're not doing what you were supposed to. You're living these unfulfilled lives, and so now you have to make yourself happy by snorting oxycodone, and it's just a...
Oh, getting onto one of our previous shows, do you think AI and robotics will make this worse?
No, actually...
All these people losing their jobs.
I think once you take away people having to struggle to live, I don't know, you're going to have those people where you're going to have to separate everybody based on mental fortitude instead of their physical capabilities, or even their mental strength in like math or something like that, because you're going to have robots doing 99% of the work. I think once you get rid of all the menial jobs and stuff, I mean, like, nobody wants to work at fucking Taco Bell forever. But you have a lot of kids that are getting out of college right now, and that's the only place that they can find a fucking job. So...
Yeah, but this AI and robotics is going to clean out most of the office jobs as well.
Which is good, because if you have...
Hence more unemployment.
But if you have robots doing everything, then money becomes sort of a non-issue at some point. This is the futuristic Star Trek bullshit that we were talking about, where instead of money, it's But this is where it gets subjective and weird. Is are you a shit person or are you cool? So obviously shit people aren't going to get extra stuff. But then what's the subjectivity of who's a good person and who's a bad person? And am I a bad person because I'm Catholic and I want to have conservative values in my family? Am I a bad person because I don't believe in transgender bullshit and all this other weird shit that they're doing, and I don't want all these fucking Somalians living near me and blah, blah, blah? Or on the other end of the spectrum, even though those people, I think that they're wrong and I disagree with them, are they bad people? No, I think it's misplaced wanting to help somebody because you're supposed to be helping your community and living in a small place with taking care of your family. I don't think they're bad
but those people are crazy.
Yeah, I think they're driven crazy by a world that it just doesn't make sense. Have you ever seen those videos of like when you overstimulate a cat?
Yeah, anyway, I mean they've been brainwashed though. That's what they've been purposely brainwashed by your favorite friends that you like to talk about a lot.
Well, yes, of course,
but not only them, but the governments and the globalist establishment in general, because they are useful in the dumbed down state that they're in, and they think they're not. That's the thing that gets me. If you start arguing with online, they're just going to call you an idiot if you put forth any sort of conservative viewpoints. By the way, a lot of conservatives are kind of stupid too, because they believe Trump's actually going to fix a lot of things, or he's going to somehow save the world or whatever, or actually or that he really is a conservative, which he really isn't. The guy is a globalist at the end of the day, just like pretty much all the other people that are at his level.
Well, I mean, I've already seen J.D. Vance walking around with a lot of Israel people. So
the status that got him where he is what the system, the way it is, got him where he is, and they don't have a problem changing. It keeps him where he is. It keeps his family where he is, where they are. So they don't want to change a system that is benefiting them because they've already got their part off of it. So there's no incentive to change it from them.
Even if our society was completely exactly how you and I envision it, and conservative and everything is perfect, don't you think that with the amount of people that we have living in cities and the technology that you have at your fingertips and stuff, even if everything was controlled and everything was good and correct, I still think that a lot of these people that, I mean, you say that they're crazy, I mean, they kind of are, but I think a lot of it just comes from overstimulation. You have too much going on, too much choice.
There are so many things you could argue that are causing it. I would say the overstimulation keeps them occupied to start not think critically about their own ideals. Because when you have people, especially you see people in their 60s and 70s and stuff who are still liberal at that age, and they think about that abortion is a good thing, like killing a baby before it's born. And it's like, how fucked up in the head do you gotta be to really think that? I mean, when you have these same people on the other side, being pro-animal and stuff. Like, you can't keep an animal in the zoo because that's abuse to an animal. But you're okay with killing an unborn human being? I think you got something wrong with you.
Well, for those kind of people, it's only okay to kill a baby if it's white. I mean, let's be honest here.
No, the black community, they go talk about Planned Parenthood and stuff. A lot of them are in their, every other fucking month. But I mean, I'm not going to comment on that because I've seen that there's a lot of abortions among all sorts of people. I'm not going to make it a racial issue completely.
Well, I mean, when you talk about that, I do remember that
it's very high in Eastern Europe too.
There was a very conservative, they do have a lot of abortions here. That's one thing that I don't understand why they're all cool with that here. It's the one thing that I disagree with almost everybody on here. Because
they won't take away women's rights over here either. Because for all the crap, they talk about traditionalism, and I got to be careful what I say here, because the leaders here will push that traditionalism mentality, but on the ground, in the reality, they're not changing things to align with those words.
Well, and I
thus
think
the
that's
birth rate will stay the same.
probably the biggest thing with almost with Trump and almost everything else that we do is like, why does everybody say all this stuff and then nobody really does it? Like, why don't you go for it? Like, Trump just got elected. He's only got 4 years.
What do you mean? Do what?
Like, why don't you just, I don't know, make your vision? Why don't you cut a path? It just seems like people like to talk about things. Maybe they'll try some stuff half-ass. It doesn't matter what direction you're doing it in.
Let me go back to what it doesn't have anything to do with Mexico, but it has to do with what I was saying a few times and just now about the women's rights and everything. The reason they can't go back to what we had, say, 100, 150 years ago in regards to feminism and stuff, is because you started dividing the society. You get the women out of the workforce and you make your traditional families again, it will collapse the economy completely in a very short amount of time, like days. Because women in a lot of these countries, even here, make up 50% of the workforce, at least in America. Now they're more than 50%. They're providing all the consumerism as well as a lot of the labor in a lot of different, I'm not talking about like physically demanding jobs. They're still mostly men, but in a lot of jobs, administrative jobs especially, they're providing a lot of labor, and they're also providing a lot of the money that's going back into the system. So you would basically destroy your own economy very quickly if you tried to go back to that right now. So they can't do something like that overnight. The only thing they could do is maybe over the course of 10, 15, 20, or even 50 years, slowly convert back towards that, which would have to be, and then you'd be going back to what you would be doing is renationalizing the entire planet. You're making the entire world system like what it was for most of human history, which was individual countries were extremely nationalistic and very out for their own thing, which meant that every so often you're going to deal with a lot of wars, which we're kind of dealing with already as it is anyway, but it's more controlled, I'd say, than right now than what we've had in the past.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because that's something that I started to think about after the last show that we had, where we were talking about spheres of influence, and I was saying I don't think that there should be any spheres of influence. I think everybody should worry about what's inside of your own borders, and then after that, I mean, if somebody asks for your help, or if you're being attacked by, say, a drug cartel, then probably you need to work with the other country's government to solve that. But otherwise, I don't know, a lot of conservative men are cool with, as long as I got food and a house and I'm hanging out with my family, I mean, what more do I need? You know, like I don't have to buy new shit all the time. I mean, this shirt, I bought it for like $10 from Walmart, like, I don't know, 6 years ago. And this is one of my nice shirts. So,
it's very classy.
I don't know if you've seen my shirt, Steve, but
I don't. I think I saw it in the video a little bit.
It's
I didn't get it.
It's tigers and some sort of flower.
Frangipani.
Yeah, I don't know what that is,
so
but
it's kind of oriental looking.
It's just a very festive Hawaiian oriental shirt, I guess.
Oh,
That's
okay.
his signature on the show.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm gonna start wearing all of my $10 Walmart shirts. But I mean, that's the thing is like I don't know. I find it more fun in my experience. Like I remember growing up, you know, you have everybody in the neighborhood. You go over to all the kids were playing in the street. Everybody would have barbecues and cookouts. You would go over to grandma's house for Christmas, and nobody does that anymore.
In America.
Yeah, nobody. Like everybody's all separated. They're all sitting at home and to entertain themselves.
I
They're
think it's most Western countries now, isn't it?
snorting the perks, playing video games, collecting those stupid fucking those figurine things from fucking GameStop. I forget what those gay fucking things are called, and just dumb shit like that. But I think if you go back to only men working and stuff, it's I don't know why do we need all of this stuff? I don't understand it. I don't understand if the economy collapsed in a week. If we put everything back to normal, you would get used to it pretty quickly, and I don't think that it would be that big of an issue. And on the alliances, that's the other thing that I was thinking about since the last show. Why do we have to have alliances that are only between certain countries? If every single country in the world agreed to don't attack each other, and if you attack somebody, then everybody's going to come in and smack your pee-pee, then I think that would be a pretty good deterrent. And just make everything go back to normal and just make everybody hang out in their own fucking yard and take care of their own shit. If everybody was isolationist and went back to how society is supposed to be, I don't think there would be an issue.
America needs to do that. Would get rid of their 800 bases overseas.
Well, yeah, you start by pulling all your shit back and stop wasting all the taxpayers' money.
Pull out of Japan and Germany. You've been there for 80 years.
Yeah, and Japan has their own defense force that, because now that we like Japan, they can have an army, even though it says that they're not supposed to have an army.
They're changing the constitution.
Right.
For that.
I think America is going to be withdrawing in on itself a little bit in the coming years. You won't be able to afford to. Preservation. They're going to have to, because they've let the internal domestic situation in the country just dilapidate and rot so much that if they don't kind of focus more on stabilizing their situation internally, then their empire won't mean anything.
And financially.
They won't be able to project any power beyond their borders anyway.
But I don't understand. I don't know, why do we need all of this stuff that we have? And I know because you're gonna say I'm hypocritical because I'm talking into a microphone and I'm broadcasting on the internet and blah blah blah. But I mean, think about it. Most people, I think, if you went back to living a simple life, how people used to before the Industrial Revolution, would it really actually be that much different? No. I mean, you'd still have your family and people around you, and you'd still eat all the same foods, and I mean, all the foods that we've been eating, unless you're talking about the fucking double, triple Baconator from Wendy's or whatever, and I mean, that's all existed for, thousands of years. Nothing would really change. I just don't understand. Why does everybody need so much shit? It just seems like a waste.
Moving all the time, it gets rid of all your shit when you move countries.
Well, and actually, I do that quite a bit.
Yeah,
and
that's what we did.
My family moved around a lot when I was a kid. Maybe that's why I don't really feel so much attachment to all of this random bullshit. I mean, I have money, and I can afford what I want, especially here in Belarus, obviously. And I don't know if you can see this, but on New Year's, I drank too much at the bar, and I dropped my phone on the ground, and I cracked the screen. And that was over a month ago, and this is like $100 phone. And this is the whole reason why I bought it, was that way if I dropped it at the bar, I wouldn't give a fuck. And I don't know, it still works. So I haven't replaced it yet. It's like I don't know. I don't throw shit out until it completely breaks. I don't buy new shit all the time. The one thing that I really enjoy is like Xbox and video games, but even with that, I mean, I'm sure most people know the game Battlefield. I had Battlefield 4, and I played that game for like 5-6 years with my friends, and that was the only game that we played. I bought a new Xbox just so I could play that game and continue playing it on the new Xbox. Like, that was the only thing that we did for like 10 years. I played with the same people. And the only reason we did that was because I liked those people. Was it really about the game? No. And I think most people that play video games know that you're not actually playing the game to play the game. You're playing the game because you're playing with the people that you're playing with. Which brings me back to my original point. You don't need all this shit. You can hang out with all your friends and stuff at home.
Like we all used to before social media and all that.
Yeah, go have a bonfire. Go drink too much with your high school friends and wake up in a cornfield. That's what I did. It makes you tough. It's good for you.
Yeah, it is. Exactly.
What about you, Steve? In New York, you drink too much and wake up on the subway, or how does that work?
Well, I didn't live in the city. I didn't grow up in the city. I was born there.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't want to get back into all those stories, but yeah, I did all that sorts of things when I was younger. I mean, you're talking like over 25 years ago for me now. Well, not 20, maybe like 22 years ago. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're slightly older than me, so I mean, like for me, like high school was 15 years ago. So.
Well, I'm gonna be 42 next month.
Yeah, so you're 13 years older than me.
Yeah, 12, 13. Anyway, yeah, I mean, we did all those sorts of things, sort of, but I mean, I don't know what they're doing these days, really, in high school anymore. I'm pretty far removed from it. I can just tell by talking to the Zoomers when they come into the internet chat groups and stuff, and the language they use, like,
Well,
I
they
mean,
all think they're black, first of all.
I mean, it depends on who you're talking to, I guess. I'm talking to the ones who are kind of all over the world, but just the internet language in general is really weird now, where they've got their whole terminology. I mean, really, the whole internet language thing was evolving in process as it was coming up in the 90s and the early 2000s, and now it's just like it's constantly in flux, where like their vocabulary and stuff is totally different.
Well, I mean, even for me, when I was in high school, when I first started getting a phone that I could text on, and, like we were still using, like, what was it, the MSN Messenger or whatever, and,
Yeah.
like, we were playing Counter-Strike 1.6, and, like, you would type into the chat on there, like the original Counter-Strike, and, I don't know, like, I had to ask, what does WYD mean when they type that in? And they're like, it means, what are you doing? I'm like, why didn't you just type that?
Yeah.
and I see how these people type and stuff. It's because well, the whole TTYL and all that short texting language, I understand the original purpose of that. That was because you could only fit so much into a text message, and because you didn't have a full keyboard. But once they changed all that, then people still kept on doing that shit, and I finally understood when I went to they made us do a keyboarding class in like middle school. People don't know how to fucking type. People still don't know how to type. And
they don't know how to write. They've lost their ability to articulate in the English language, and that is kind of sad.
Well, they definitely don't know how to write also. I mean, like but now the kids, like, they don't even know how to type on a computer or work a computer because they only know how to use like an iPad or a smartphone.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got to the perfect point where I knew how to type and I could play games and do all that dumb shit, but I didn't know all the lingo and stuff. But now the kids know all this lingo, but if it's not an iPad, they don't know how to make it work. And also,
Can't use a keyboard.
Well, it's like they use the keyboard, but they only know how to chopstick it, like.
Yeah, with their fingers.
Right, because they don't know how to actually like use the home base keys, and so I mean, like, I can type fast, and once I start doing it, like, I can do it pretty accurately, and I think actually I think when I'm applying for, I started looking for remote work because I mean, like, I may as well make a few bucks while I'm over here. Data entry and stuff. If nobody knows how to fucking type, I'm pretty sure that I saw on the applications, like, they want you to be able to type 50 words per minute. That is not very fast at all. That's slow.
You can get your friend to write you an AI bot.
Exactly. Like, I can get somebody to make me an AI bot to even do the work for me. That's the other thing. But 50 words per minute. Man, I can text faster than that on the phone. When I have a full keyboard on the computer,
Yeah.
I can go way faster than that. So, I don't know. It's just stuff is changing.
It's always changing, but it's changing a lot faster now because the rate of technological advancement has increased a lot. But our technology is pretty much kind of streamlined where we put most of our effort into digital and a particular area of tech related to computing basically is a lot. We're not focusing, we're not pushing in the direction of like space exploration so much. Well, Elon thinks he is, but we're never gonna get it to another planet anytime soon outside the solar system. But it's all like digital, computer tech, and it's like everything else is also progressing, but it's not progressing as quickly. Maybe the idea is because once we reach technological singularity with AI, then that'll do all the rest of our advancement for us. But I don't know. That's something that could take us into a whole nother video entirely that would last for hours. But
Well, and that's what I keep on saying with talking about that futuristic society where nobody has to work and all you have to do is just work on yourself and figure out what makes you happy. And I think once you free people using AI, that's what they're going for. But
Don't you think there's too many people for that?
no, not at all. Because once you have robots doing absolutely everything, all the manufacturing, and you want to stop at McDonald's and it's all fucking robots working there, and once they're doing all the menial jobs, then the only things that you'll need people for are stuff like I don't think constitutionally you could ever have like an AI judge or courtroom.
Why? Don't you think they do a better job?
Because you're supposed to be judged by a jury of your peers. So
A jury of robots?
these AI randomly selected from the ages of 18 to 80 have jobs that are simulated in your community, and no, I don't think so. I think jury duty will still be a thing no matter how much AI there is. But you know what they say about jury duty? They're not that smart if they couldn't figure out how to get out of jury duty. It's the easiest thing to get out of. Oh, I'm racist. Okay, see you later. Like, I'm sorry, I have to go make a dentist appointment 30 minutes ago. Okay. Like,
just say that you don't trust the American government in law and the justice system.
oh yeah, that's an easy one. But it's not as fun as telling them you're racist.
Okay, final thoughts. Steve,
About what in particular?
what were we talking about?
No, we just went off on a total tangent right there.
Okay, final thoughts.
We always tangent at the
Yes,
end of the show.
At the end, we always tangent off.
At the Mexican drug cartels or something.
Or while you're thinking, Michael?
Will the
go
AI
ahead.
start smuggling drugs for the cartel?
Robot
No.
mules.
No.
No.
If that's going to be my final thought to that, no.
No.
No, it won't.
But they
No,
can
like
do
I
all
said-
of the menial work. They can bring all the fentanyl for us.
And they can bring in the
You
drugs
didn't let
and
me
smuggle the
finish.
people.
You didn't let me finish what I was talking about from earlier, though. You kept interrupting me, which you
Oh.
got to work on that, by the way.
Okay.
About the Michael, not you, Dave.
Oh.
about the deportations. All right, so yeah, if they ever get around to actually deporting the regular illegals who aren't criminal aliens, I would be very surprised because they can keep doing this 300 to 500 a week, and they can make a show of it, march around there with Trump's deputy director of ICE or whatever, and make it look like they're doing something, but really they're just doing the same thing they've been doing for 40, 50 years, which is kicking the ones out who are the worst of the worst, or have some convictions or something like that. And they're not touching the bulk of them who just fly under the radar and do their waitress job, or they're picking corn in the fields or whatever, lettuce, or working at Home Depot or whatever. They aren't going to get them because they're just keeping their head down, and there's millions upon millions of them, tens of millions of them, not just Hispanic ones from all over the world, Indians, Chinese, Arabs, whatever, and they're not going to touch them because they're just, eh. So, and you'd have to be deporting thousands of people every single day, really, to make a dent in that multi-million-dollar number that is the total population of illegals inside the United States. Literally, you have to be kicking out, you know, probably about 4,000 to 5,000 every single day to really put a dent in that big number. So until they start doing that, all these people on the right, oh yeah, we're getting them illegals now. We're getting these motherfuckers out of here. Get back to fucking Mexico or whatever. Go back to the country that you love so much. Blah 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 blah. All these people protesting, waving around the Mexican flags in California. They're not going to get kicked out. They're not going to do anything about those people. So don't get all excited about it because that's not happening.
Well, what if the new Department of Governmental Efficiency figures out that we're spending a lot of government money on these people, and so then I don't know, with all that money that they've been cutting from everybody else, they could make a new agency to actually focus on kicking out everybody.
A lot of that's being spent by the states, though, and the cities. The states and the cities are in control of that, so it's state and city money. If they want to put pressure on the states to do stuff, they definitely can. The federal government can say, we're not going to give you any transportation aid anymore. We're not going to give you aid for this or that. Well, they're already talking about cutting the education department entirely. They could cut education aid that the federal government gives to the states to fund their educational systems. There are a lot of things they could do if they want to force the states to stop paying for all these people and thus maybe kind of force them to leave, which would help. I mean, if you can't give your own citizens health care because you're too busy spending the money on illegals, but also the giant, massive military industrial complex, you have a problem as a country. Because the fact of the matter is, if you live in a U.S. citizen, you're paying almost the same taxes as anybody living in any of these EU countries where they get way more back for their tax money than you get as an American. You're talking healthcare, education, childcare, maternity leave, all sorts of benefits that come to you as a citizen of an EU country that an American citizen doesn't get, who is paying pretty much the same tax levels, especially on the federal level when you're talking about higher incomes. So
Israel has universal health care.
What about that? Yeah, all right. So
that we pay for.
I mean, you can take this any way you want, Michael, and bring us off into a whole nother thing. But yeah, they'll be here for another 3 hours talking about that.
The chat says Trump's administration will have to attack the cartels all at once or risk them joining up against us. Well, and that's what I was saying is earlier I said I think they already know where all of them are, and I think if you just wanted to do one strike overnight, you could probably get rid of 90% of them. So, I mean, they probably know where all their big distribution centers and stuff are.
I mean, these cartels, they're not. I mean, how much of a threat to these people does the average American citizen think these cartels are to the U.S. government itself, like the embodiment of the U.S. government? It's like they're not really much of a threat. As far as causing havoc down on the personal level, yeah, they can cause a lot. You know, I've run into these fucking people at casinos in upstate New York saying that they're members of the Zetas cartel and shit. I remember one of them was trying. This is after I left. This is like 8 years ago, after I left the government. And I don't want to get into a long story, but some guy at the casino, they were sitting at a table across from me and my buddy. We were there for somebody's birthday, celebrating it. And me and my buddy, one of my buddies, left the main group and we were eating something at this cafe inside the casino. And these three guys were there, and they were Hispanic looking. I said, "Hey guys, what's going on?" Da da da. And they gave us this death stare, and I'm like, "Okay, whatever." Then they were trying to pressure me and my buddy into buying them drinks or whatever. They were coming over to our table and sitting next to us, and I'm like, what the fuck? And eventually I told him, I said, listen, I said, we're not going to buy you guys a bunch of drinks just because we said hello to you. I said, get the fuck out of here. And then they started threatening us, saying they were part of the cartel or whatever. If I was in the job still, I would have done something. But I didn't have my badge anymore. I didn't have my gun on me, obviously. And I just waved over a casino security guy. Said, listen, these guys are fucking giving us a hard time. Can you do something about it? They keep coming to our table here, messing with us while we're eating. And then a couple of security guys came over and they just kicked him out of the casino. And on the way out, they were mouthing off or whatever. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Get the fuck out of here. I said some non-nice racial things, but whatever. On that sort of level, yeah, these people, these cartel people, on a personal level, on individuals on the border and stuff, they can cause a lot of problems. But they're not going to do shit to the U.S. government.
Well, I think the biggest thing they're doing to America and to the U.S. government is, well, they're scaring all of the people out of Mexico, and then they all come to live in America because, well, their country fucking sucks, and what if your head gets chopped off and stuck on a pike, and, you know, so I think if you get rid of them,
Well,
it makes a lot of stuff where, you know, people can go back to Mexico, they can live a normal life, and they don't have to,
you're gonna
yeah.
Mexican government's gonna have to step up. They're gonna have to step up. They're gonna have to get a lot of the corruption out. They're gonna have to clean up inside their own government,
Well,
and
now that they
they're
got
gonna have
that
to
nice
actually.
Jewish president in charge after like those 30 assassinations or whatever, I'm
Yeah,
sure
well,
she'll take care of it.
well, I mean, it depends. I'm not being sarcastic, but maybe she could. It depends on where the will is. Yeah,
Well, she
you know.
could if she wants to. I guess it's just I don't think that that's the goal though. I think they're just going to continue to make stuff worse and worse and worse in America, and you know, pretend like everything
Well,
is getting better. And
then the Mexican border on the American side, we'll just click the Mexican border on the Mexican side, which is you'll have people getting hung off bridges and tire fires and executions and stuff. And to be quite honest, it's really not that far off from that. It's just they usually keep most of the really bad killing on the Mexican side. There's a lot of killing on the American side down on the border, but it's not as aggravated as it is on the Mexican side, not as open as it is on the Mexican side. So
well,
you could just
and I
switch a
guess
few things.
before
It'll be bad.
you continue, you're saying, you know, on the American side all this is happening, but what about all of the black gangs and the other gangs that are already doing this stuff in New York and Chicago, and
Yeah,
so I mean we already
yeah,
do have it.
you do, but you talk the amount of people killed in Mexico is like on a day-to-day basis is like equivalent of like what went on during the Vietnam War.
Oh yeah, I
Like
mean
the
it's
amount
absolutely
in
crazy.
the border areas on the Mexican side, yeah. So it's not to that level inside like downtown Chicago and stuff every single day. Like there are periods where it is bad, and then like not only we have issues like that with Chicago, but you'll have it along the entire border and probably up into several hundred miles up into those border regions in the states itself. So it could get really bad. You got your white toast people living up in New England and stuff who have no idea how bad it is down there, just because they don't hear about it as much. And maybe
So you're
they
saying New England is nice?
parts of it are, and go along the coast in Massachusetts and stuff north of Boston and stuff. There's some really great little towns up there. Great uh, New England style architecture and stuff. A lot of old money,
Yeah,
and
but they're trying to price
European
everybody
style.
out.
They are, yeah, and they've done it effectively. It's extremely expensive to live in a lot of those older homes in that area.
Yeah, so you
Um,
can only live somewhere nice in America if you have a lot of money. It's
so yeah, maybe those people will start getting impacted directly, and maybe they'll either if they don't see the leadership class in the United States do anything to kind of rectify the situation domestically, then maybe they'll end up like us over here and getting the fuck out of there completely.
well, and here's one more point that I think you were talking about how there's no middle class in Mexico. Um, I think
Yeah.
that the American middle class it hasn't existed for quite a long time. I think most middle class people are actually like they're pretty poor. I mean, you're paying most of your money goes towards taxes, and it's going towards the people that don't work and they get all the free food and shit. And then the people that are making six figures and you would consider them rich. Actually, when you look at people that make a lot of money, I mean, if you make $150,000, $200,000, even $250,000 a year, it's not that much. And you were talking about how in Mexico you have the poors and you have the oligarchs, but in America, there's a fuckload of oligarchs, and even the rich people, they're not that rich.
Well, the thing about, I could spend all night talking about this stuff. The thing about that is that, like, well, all right, so, I don't want to talk about exact numbers, but I was 1811, I was a GS-13 journeyman with law enforcement availability pay. I was making over six figures. A lot of people think that's a lot of money. Depends on who you're talking to. To me, it was a good amount of money, but I put in a lot of work. I have a lot of education, experience, and everything before I got the job. For the type of hours I had to work, sometimes too, 16-hour days, sometimes, quite often actually, when it was a big narcotics case or something going on, it's not really worth it. And if you're talking about the people who actually control the country, for them, if tomorrow they were making $500,000 a year or $50,000 a year, it wouldn't matter to them because they have so much money. Both a person making 500,000 or 50,000 seems poor to them. So yeah, in that regard, yeah, $250,000 a year, $250,000 a year isn't really that much. So
well, to put it in perspective for everybody watching the show, I'm from Iowa, where we have the lowest minimum wage in America. It was $7.25 when I was in high school. And when I was in the Army, you're talking about, anywhere between a 50 to a 80-hour work week, depending on how much dumb shit they have you doing. And every 2 weeks, I would get paid like $1,500, and I was like, wow, that's a lot of money.
I know what a private in the military used to make back when I was looking into it a little bit. So I didn't want to sign up.
Yeah, it's fucking shit. You get paid dog shit, but you get to hang out and live in the barracks and be with all your friends and do a bunch of shenanigans and
basically you shoot someone.
Your living expenses are paid for, so you don't have a lot of expenses. So I mean, if you live cheap, you can definitely do okay, but it's not something that you want to do for,
well, obviously you're going to spend all the money on alcohol and hookers. I mean, you're just not in the Army if you're not doing that. That's
what a bunch of Army guys I know did anyway. But
okay, guys, let's wrap this.
If you go into
go ahead.
Okay, if you go into special forces, I was just gonna say real quick. If you go into special forces or some of the niche fields, I know that they're making decent, but that's not something like you really get into right away all the time. I mean, there are methods to get into it quickly, but a lot of the specific enlisted guys who are like SF or certain specialized crypto linguistic crap fields,
and they're doing a lot of stuff that they're not supposed to be doing in a lot of places they're not supposed to be, so that's why they're making a lot of money.
Of course. Yeah.
So
okay, Dave, wrap it up please before we get drawn into something else.
Okay, let's wrap this up. Steve, do you want anybody to follow you anywhere?
No, man, I gotta set up some sort of channel eventually, but it's
just
not a priority right now,
Yeah. And as usual, Michael doesn't want anybody to follow him. So
I mean, eventually I might let you, depending on how many people we have, and then you can send me donations so I can buy more alcohol and hookers.
Yeah, get him drunk on the show.
Oh my God.
Okay, thanks, Steve, for being on.
Yeah.
Bye, Steve.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, bye-bye.
Take it easy, guys.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, that's it for the show.
Nope, you're accidentally showing too much. There we go. You were showing the whole telegram.
Was I?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, as soon as he hung up, it starts showing the screen.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, thanks for everybody for watching. Please share the video, hit the subscribe button if you haven't, hit the like button, and we won't be back next. We'll be back this.
We're going to be on Sunday.
We'll be back on Sunday, but we won't be back on the following Wednesday or the following Sunday because he's.
I'm gonna take a holiday for Valentine's Day. I'm gonna go to St. Petersburg.
Exactly.
And so I'll have to take a lot of pictures and I'll tell you guys how it is. It's supposed to be really nice.
We might have a show. Maybe I can get Steve or someone on. Take your place.
Yeah. I think Andrew should be back too.
Oh yeah, we'll have probably. We may have some shows next week, but we'll definitely be back on Sunday Thanks for tuning in tonight, and goodbye. And remember, don't follow him.
Stay classy, San
Bye-bye.
Diego.
And tune in for his next shirt.
Yeah, I'll wear